this is the Town of Sheldon Selectboard and Water Commission regular meeting. Monday, April 27th of 2026, held here at the town office. The agenda for this evening, under new business, we have personnel annual review, got town highway department report, town administrator's report. Need to sign and approve an annual financial plan for town highways, certificate of compliance for the road and bridge standards, minutes from the April 13th meeting, warrant 2609 and warrant 9-26, excess weight permits. And then under old business, we got the building security systems review. Is there anything else we need to add?
Yes, Jim Benson is here to talk about the animal control officer position. And I don't know if Brian's is on the audit. Brian, you're here?
That and the bridge.
The bridge, okay.
Okay. All right, let's jump right into the animal control business then.
All right, so this is Jim Benson. Jim and I have had a lot of contact over the last couple of years because from time to time we haven't had somebody to do animal control, and Jim does animal control for a number of towns west of Sheldon, including Swanton, St. Albans Town, St. Albans City, and so there have occasionally been dogs that were kind of either on the border with Sheldon or if I was not sure which town the dog was in, so Jim and I have been in touch because of that, and then there's been other, we found a dog here that ended up being from St. Albans, so I had contacted Jim about that. So anyway, we had discussed in the last time we had a vacancy last year, Jim had called me and said, hey, I'd be interested in doing that, and we had already hired somebody, so I thought of him when we had a vacancy this year. Anyway, Jim, besides those towns, I think you also work for Alberg, North Hero, and a few other towns in the islands as well. So he has a lot of experience with animal control, and I'll let him talk about that. But
Okay.
Yeah, I do 9 towns in all. I have a dog catcher truck and catch poles, and I carry leashes and collars and 25-foot leads for people that don't have them. I started doing this 9 years ago for the St. Albans Police Department, and I realized other towns needed it as well, so I've been slowly adding more and more as I retire from my regular job. I work a regular job, but I don't even do 16 hours a week anymore at that.
Yeah.
So I have a lot of connections in animal control. I've been to more than a dozen trainings on everything from abuse to ticket writing to, all the gamut, dog fighting, which we luckily don't have around here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Only thing is I live a long ways away from here. It's 45 minutes, but I also work for the town of Berkshire in Fairfax. So I'm on the road all day, most days. Well, I have one day off, and then I'll drive all the way out to Berkshire, and then come back, and then have to go to Fairfax as soon as I get home. You know how it goes. But,
Yeah.
Where do you live?
North Europe.
Oh, yeah. But you're like generally in this area most of the time.
Yeah.
It could be worse, could be Grand Isle.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
That's what we say in North Europe, that's for sure. I answer my phone, I'll go out at midnight. I do take some vacations, I'm old, but usually I still answer the phone even when I'm on vacation. A lot of times I can talk people, talk them through it. Not always, but I called Dakota Garrow today and asked him if he'd be interested in maybe doing 10-day straight holds for the town of Sheldon. He said he would. I would just change the contract up with your name on it if you wanted to do that, $75 a day, which is, I used to pay $50, and I got a place in New York that does it for $30, but that's, way too far away, but it's good for the islands. I also have been working with the director of Chittenden County Humane Society to get them to start helping us here in Franklin County. Because before they would just do Grand Isle and Chittenden County, but as we've gotten closer working on dog stuff, that she's taking more towns. And so, like, so say you get a dump dog and you can't find the owner in 10 days, they'll take the dog for $250. So, I would tell her about you guys, and she'd like send up a contract, and you could decide on whether it's worth it for you or not. I also we talked about Matt, like maybe having a place here, maybe the town garage or something. So like if I'm not around, somebody could bring a dog there and temporarily keep it there for a little while. Because most times you find the owner of the dog within a couple hours.
Yep.
So you might be able to find it. As soon as somebody calls for a found dog, I have them send me a picture. And I put it right on Facebook. I would join the Sheldon community page, I assume if they have one.
Yep.
Berkshire doesn't, so I use Montgomery. But they, and put it on, and a lot of times like I'll be driving out and I'll find the owner that way.
Yeah.
I have my own chip readers, an iPad where I keep all the licensed dogs in the town ordinance in my car.
That's awesome.
Do you catch other animals besides dogs?
No, usually not. I do it depends, and it depends on you guys. Sometimes I get calls for like a raccoon that's alive, but not moving. So usually if it's moving and it's going someplace, leave it alone if it hasn't touched anybody. But if it's been in contact with somebody, I would catch it and go get it tested. It's in Colchester, my health. Usually if any animal like that touches somebody, you want to get it tested, make sure it doesn't have rabies. But if say there's on a lawn someplace a raccoon it's not moving, you throw a snowball at it, it doesn't go anywhere, but it's still alive, I'll come and shoot it and I'll throw it in the dumpster at Public Works or whatever. So I'm willing to do, definitely willing to do that. A lot of people, I get calls for lots of things like foxes underneath my thing, and I'm like, they're probably gonna move as soon as they're done with their kits. Just, we leave them alone. Cats, usually I say leave them alone, they're your neighbor's cat, probably. If not, there's half the cats in the world live out on their own anyways. I will go pick up if one gets hit by a car and it's dragging its legs and suffering, I will pick it up and bring it up to Bev so they can euthanize it. I don't really like shooting cats myself because that's somebody's property. I'd rather have them, decide on something like
Right.
that.
It's different from something like a
Right.
wild raccoon.
Yeah, a raccoon, if it's not moving but it's still alive, it's definitely, best thing I think to do is to shoot it.
Yeah, and well, you work with Fish and Wildlife also.
Yeah, with the detective and all the guys have done big cases, like with the German Shepherds in Albert with those guys, and they're supposed to do for this town, if you have abuse, they're supposed to do it. Sometimes they'll have me investigate it, but it works out in the long run because if I need help, they're there to help me too. So they're the only ones that can arrest people for abuse now. Animal control can't anymore. They changed the law a couple of years ago, but they're busy. And Fish and Wildlife can't keep up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I bet. Huh.
Yeah, there's specific humane officer training that you need to have to do the investigation, so Jim's done that, so he can do that, but he can't issue tickets.
Right, yeah. Yeah, they're supposed to be doing another training at the academy so that ACOs that work for police departments can do that, but they haven't made the training yet.
Yeah.
And it's been, in June, 2 years. But they're working on this stuff. Today I was talking to Matt, I was talking with the director of animal welfare for the state of Vermont, and at least we have that now. She's trying to come up with good plans and maybe more regional type stuff. Like Franklin County has a dog pound,
Yeah,
things like that.
yeah.
Yeah. I told Jim that we have other ways that in other areas, we cooperate with other towns, so we have Justin's contract for example, where we're sharing with 4 other towns, and I said, if that was possible, I think that would be a good arrangement for us so that it's a thing where it really only takes one well, someone like Jim's kind of ideal in that someone who could almost make it their full-time job, but no one town needs a full-time
Right.
dog catcher.
Yeah,
But if you put them all together, it maybe is, and then the only issue is how to split the costs between the towns so that nobody's paying for coverage and, you know, you're paying this much, but the dog catcher's catching all the dogs in the other town, that's no good. So, maybe, but the state has started there's legislation, I don't think it's been approved yet, that would have a pilot project for doing a more countywide, financing of, it's a police project specifically down in Windsor County, I think, or maybe it's Wyndham. Anyway, but if that is successful, that might be applied to other things like animal control, for example,
Yeah.
where the idea would be that you can tell the officer you're gonna get this much money, but the amount that's gonna be charged to each town will have to do with how many cases you worked in that town. So the towns, but anyway, the one area, besides the fact that Jim lives further away, the other issue is that he typically works for a higher amount than we've been paying our ACO here. I explained to him that we used to pay them weekly, and then, I don't know, some issue with that costing too much, and so we went to hourly, but since we've gone to hourly, we've had a hard time keeping someone in his position, so.
yeah.
Anyway, I'm not sure if there's some, I just thought that the other, part of the issue besides how much we've been paying people is that it's, there are aspects of the job that are easier for some people to deal with than others. It's not necessarily a great job for an animal lover, and it's also not necessarily, if you're not inclined to dealing with people, a lot of times you're dealing with people who are taking a very strong case about the animal one way or the other, and that can be difficult to navigate. But I thought of Jim because he obviously has a lot of experience doing that, so I thought if we could come to an agreement on compensation, that we would be getting our money's worth, I think, in terms of not having to do additional training or things like that. And as I said, if we could, part of it would be building our facilities here so that we can take care of a dog if he's, you know, to get him time to get over here. As he said, you know, a lot of the lost dog issues get resolved pretty quickly, but it's the cases we have to do investigations and the neighbor disputes and things like that take a lot of time to do. But it would be good to have somebody who has expertise in those things to handle those. So even though we don't have a really high caseload here in Sheldon typically, I think it's still worth it to invest in a position to have somebody deal with those things. I did mention that we haven't done a dog census in Sheldon in some years, and it may be worth it to do that soon. But obviously, if we did that, I would go out with him to help him do that, because I'd rather have two people doing that personally. So anyway, that would be probably for next year thing to do, or maybe in the fall. So anyway, I just wanted to have Jim come here and introduce himself and talk to you guys, and then maybe we can have a discussion about compensation and.
You looked into a proposed contract at all? Or
Jim's kind of shared what he's usually getting with other towns, or what he has different arrangements with all the different communities you work for, so, it is a bit higher than what we've been budgeting for ACOs, so I can come up with something with Jim and put it in front of you and see what you say.
Okay.
But I thought it was at least worth it to, have face to face and
Yeah,
talk
no,
about it.
that's good.
Yeah, something to look at would definitely be helpful for me.
Okay, yeah. So I think that you said you have some towns you work for where you have a weekly rate, and then there's others that's like per incident, or?
Right, yeah, some towns they do it like per year,
Mhm.
and then some, a salary, a monthly, everybody's different. And then sometimes it's salary, every 2 weeks, which means more money. It took me a couple years to figure that out, because there's more weeks than months, but, yeah, and then sometimes they get paid per call and hourly. Yeah,
So like those ones where you get paid per call, I imagine that the payment would come afterwards, right? Like you get called and then submit, hey, I was
I
called.
like to do it
and-
once a month, but like for Fairfax, I do it every week. But I'm getting better at that. I remember to do it Sunday nights, send it in for Mondays. So yeah, I'll send it like a little report of what I did, and then how many miles, and hours and calls. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes there's, you know, I can't think of anything right now, but every now and then I'll have to buy something, but I'll I'll call Matt first to make sure it's okay. You know, I have most everything. I buy stuff with my own money. Like I said, I carry, sometimes, especially if it's a salary town, if I gotta go someplace and tell them, you gotta type your dog, and they're like, well, we don't even have a lead, and I'll leave them one, because maybe they'll save me a trip. So I give people leads out for free all the time, and collars, any dog I catch that doesn't have a collar, I put a collar on it temporarily. So it's just easier to handle, and things like that.
Yeah, so we have a small budget for miscellaneous and a budget for mileage, and typically, like I said, we've been paying hourly to this point, so I figured at least on an initial basis, we'd probably do a per call and hourly, and then we'll see how that goes for the rest of this year, and then when we come to budget next year, maybe we can discuss something else.
Yeah.
When we're doing it, so.
Yeah, see what you can work
Yeah,
out.
I guess Jim and I will sit down and work out the money part, and I'll put that for you for the next meeting. Is that
Okay.
all right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
And like I
Yeah.
told, if you guys need something between now and then, I'll come up and do it, and send you a bill, but, I think it's worth it,
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah. And like I said, I'll always I'll help you on the phone anyways.
Right, yeah, no, Jim's been very helpful on, 2 or 3 times I've called you, or between yourself and the state police, we've had a correspondence, and we usually figure it out.
That's one thing, doing so many towns, the state police have my number, so some towns, if they don't have an ACO, I get the call anyways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or if they can't get a hold of them, they'll give me a call. And a lot of stuff, like I said, I can do it on the phone. I've even started doing dog bites. Sometimes if it's like on premise, you still have to make sure the dog's licensed, vaccinated, and it has to be quarantined. But I can sometimes do that over the phone too, especially if they have a printer. I can email them the quarantine paperwork, you can sign it, send me a picture of it, send me a picture of the dog's license and vaccination, and I don't have to drive anywhere. And then some people try to blame me, some people think I'm trying to take their dog, and which, if I ever take a dog here in this town, it'd be up to you guys, not me. So I try to tell people, I'm not here to take your dog, I just need this information, and every dog I come in touch with I'm gonna try to make sure it gets licensed.
All right.
Great.
Yeah,
Alright,
sounds good.
alright.
The other thing, we have different leash laws here, correct?
I don't know, they're
I thought it was
different than other towns?
Water district.
No, it's the whole town.
It's a whole town.
It's the whole town, yeah.
So that's been upgraded or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think.
We did,
was it 2008, or maybe it was, we were on the board when they did it, so
Yeah,
wasn't
it
that-
was,
yeah.
when we were having all that trouble with the dogs and
Mhm. Yeah.
Dogs that run loose, like get hit by cars and eat mold, like people put out their scraps now, they get into that, there's, bad stuff happens when they're running loose, so.
yeah.
3 dogs got hit by cars in Swan already this year. Yeah.
Yeah.
Alright, so,
Yeah, thank you, Jim.
Alright, well, thanks talking to you.
Yeah, thanks for coming out.
Thank you.
Enjoy
Nice
the
to
ride
meet
home.
you.
Yeah.
All right, what'd you find out about the audit there?
All right, so,
That's
the audit was completed, they sent us a draft report last I wanna say Thursday, I can't remember exactly which day it was, but it was the 23rd. They sent it, so I was expecting it by the 13th, but it took them a little bit longer to do it. And we had they had one comment that was on the management letter that we kind of disagreed. We were not sure why it was there, so we clarified that with them, and they've reissued the management letter to go with that. So basically the issue was in doing when we met with them, Jane, myself, and Amanda, we met with them when they came here and they had finished all their work. We sat down and talked to them, and we talked about how important the feedback we'd received from the community had to do with trying to make it as easy as possible to go from the town's budget and look at the audit and be able to, see a one-to-one relationship with those numbers. And so their recommendation, so the way that we are audited by them is on an accrual basis, so they take into account, all of the town's assets, the depreciation of those assets. They also take into account all of our delinquent taxes and give those like a present value. Same thing with our delinquent water and sewer bills, things like that. So they kind of take the things the town has that are decreasing in value, and then things the town claims the town could be making, and they treat those as potential sources of income, so that then they arrive at a net position for the town based on all of those things. The town only accounts for, we do our accounting on a cash basis, so when we get the money, we count the money. And when we pay the money, we count the money then. So the town does not typically take into account those factors, and that is the main reason why it's not easy to extrapolate all the numbers from one side of the ledger to the other when you're comparing the audit report to the town's books. So we talked with them about how to make that process better, and they said if the town would put in the work, we could move to the town would continue working on a cash basis, but we could have a modified accrual basis that would occur every time we were audited. So when we are audited, we would take from the firm, from the audit company, their calculation of all those depreciation and the town's assets, and then we would accept those numbers, put them into our budget, and then it would be able to, once a year, we would have a fixed point where we would have a modified accrual, and then that would be the point at which we would be comparing the audit to the town's books, and then they should match exactly dollar for dollar, not accounting for rounding, but all the way through. So we said, yes, we could, especially with Amanda on board, we thought that we could do that. And so Amanda put the work in to make those changes, we had to create some accounts that would track that modified accrual, and she has done that work. And so they issued the audit report for this year based on that work that Amanda did. In the management letter, they made a comment about how the town hadn't done that yet, and we said, well, we did do it, so they hadn't accounted for the work that they've done since we met in January. My understanding is that letter has been reissued, and that is no longer mentioned in the letter. So basically, we've received the draft audit. I think we are comfortable with having them finalize that. And I talked to John about setting up a meeting to meet, and I apologize, I sent an email out to you guys, and I thought that I thought I was creating a scheduling poll, and it kept, every time I changed the scheduling poll, it would email all of you, so I'm sorry about that. I talked to John afterward, and he said whatever date the select board can choose for that meeting, he would be able to do. So if you can agree here at this meeting to schedule a special meeting for the audit, we'll be holding it at that time. And he said he can, as long as Zoom is available, he would be able to attend that meeting. And I said that would probably save him a trip over
Yeah.
mountain from Newport. So I didn't know if there was a particular, obviously, Rick and Nick aren't here, but if there was a date that you could choose at this meeting, we could set that.
A lot of
special
the
meeting
times
up.
on that email were either 2 or 3 p.m.
Okay, that was a
So-
mistake.
But that was
Okay,
probably in the
yeah. Right,
maybe
yeah.
previous.
Yeah, I'm sorry about
If
that.
there, yeah, if we had.
I was thinking either meeting at, earlier in the evening, say at 5 p.m. or at 6:30 as we are meeting now. So I was trying to offer one of those 2 times, and I figured the meeting would last at most an hour and a half. I can't imagine it being that long, any longer than that.
What'd you have for dates?
So I was looking at, probably next Monday would be, one date that we could look at.
The 4th, May 4th?
Yes, the other, I was, I don't personally have a lot of availability on Tuesdays, unfortunately. And there's a, planning board meeting next week, and, I think I also selected, I thought Wednesday might do, and possibly on Thursday, as long as it was early enough that Rick wouldn't have to, Rick obviously has a fire department meeting
Yeah.
every Thursday, so, and the library has events. So I thought probably next Monday might work best, but I don't know if that,
Yeah, especially if we can go by Zoom, I can do it.
you know,
Usually Mondays.
so I was basically looking at, sorry, let me pull up the,
Monday the 4th at 6:30?
yeah, that's what I thought would probably be the most likely day that we could
Work for
meet,
you?
but.
Yes, I think so.
Yeah, I can do that.
Especially if I can, like, if we can also join via Zoom?
Yes, I think so, yeah.
Then yes.
Yes, that's,
Yes.
yeah,
Okay,
same.
okay. Yeah, so the days I was looking at was, well, this Wednesday, which I didn't think was likely, but, oh, sorry, not this Wednesday, I meant next, this Thursday, I thought, or if it was at like 5, maybe we could do, and then the other days I was looking at were next Wednesday and Thursday, and the Thursday and Friday after, the Wednesday and Thursday after that. But I thought next Monday would be the best date for it.
Yes.
Okay, all right, so Monday, May 4th at 6:30.
Okay, good.
Again, I apologize for all the email mess there, because it was really not necessary, because once I sent the email to John and said, anytime you can schedule it, I'll be there, so I said, okay. So it's really just a board issue then, so I apologize for that.
No worries.
Yeah, and just, I guess check in with Rick and Nick and
Yes,
see if
yeah.
they can, I mean, if they may not be able to, but, yeah.
Alright, so that's that. What about the bridge decision here? We're gonna have a meeting on that?
I reached out to V-Trans about that, and they didn't seem to think that it was necessary to have another meeting. However, the Historical Society, I know, I had received some feedback from the engineer about the Historical Society had wanted to know the reasoning. They had recommended a wooden bridge design be considered, and they wanted to understand the reasoning why that hadn't been suggested by the state, so I asked the engineer to clarify that, and I sent that response to them. I've had some follow-on discussion with the Historical Society, or some people with the Historical Society who would like the town to maybe consider holding off on making that decision until later this year. Obviously Maria and Portia wouldn't remember, but a couple years ago they had come with some timber frame engineers to
Yep.
discuss the feasibility of a wooden structure And they thought that they would like to re-engage those people and see if maybe they would share their expertise again on the project.
Did they share it the last
Well,
time? Like
Yeah.
whatever they evaluated or whatever?
The guy came and gave them
Yeah.
a presentation, talk or whatever.
Right.
What's the state engineer stance on it though?
They said, sorry, let me pull that up here. Their response had to do with the fact that their primary reason for recommending that we do a project on this bridge is because it's not wide enough. The lanes are not to spec, are not to current spec.
Yeah, like
And there is a-
949.
Right, and there's an existing sidewalk, the town plan calls for there to be 2 sidewalks, although and they said it seems clear even if the town isn't necessarily, I know that once we looked at it, we kind of said, well, does there really need to be 2 sidewalks? However, if there were wider lanes, you could have a sidewalk and there would be enough room for a bicycle to go by on the other side, if you made the lanes wider, so that it's clear that the town has some interest in allowing multimodal traffic. I think that's what they said. And that is personally, I would be concerned about, these bicycle groups we get that come especially from Canada, if they're going over the bridge in a pack of 20 of them, and then there's 2 cars coming and trying to pass each other on the bridge, there's not enough room for everybody, so it's, obviously at some point somebody's gotta pull over and let them go, but I think that if the bridge were wider, that situation wouldn't be quite so fraught. Let me pull up that email and I'll read it for you. The primary factors in evaluating a covered bridge alternative were loading and width. The original covered bridge, constructed in the 1830s, was designed for horse-drawn wagons and early motor vehicles, which are significantly lighter and smaller than today's traffic. The existing bridge does not meet current minimum standards, width standards. Based on the town's questionnaire response, there is a clear interest in improving multimodal access, including sidewalks, bicycle accommodations, and wider shoulders. While the original covered bridge carried 2-way traffic, it would be challenging to meet these modern width and shared use needs with a traditional covered bridge configuration. In addition, modern design loads are substantially higher, and a covered bridge would likely introduce height restrictions that could limit access for emergency vehicles depending on the portal design. So given these constraints, they did not recommend a covered bridge. I also asked in the same email if they could speculate on any impact the bridge project would have on the Historical Society building itself, and they kind of said, well, until we get to the design phase, we can't really speculate on it because the guardrails, regardless of what project we pick, the guardrails over there will need to be improved because they are substandard, and that may encroach on the Historical Society area. That they would obviously try to. They said that as a general approach, we aim to leave sites in as good or better condition than we found them. If impacts to the areas of the building that the Historical Society wants to work on are unavoidable, they would incorporate those elements into the project design so that there's a clean tie-in from each project. And any work outside of the town's right-of-way would require coordination with the property owner, in this case it's the town anyway, but they would take input from the town and the Historical Society on how to do that. So I think it's a combination of the width, the design load of the bridge, and the height of the bridge that would be required for, and they specifically mentioned the emergency vehicles coming up with it. My feeling, my sense of the board, or the discussion that we had so far, is that we were leaning toward possibly not replacing the entire bridge, but a more limited deck replacement or superstructure replacement, because it would, in terms of the estimates that we received and the design life of that was projected, it was more bang for our buck in terms of dollars invested buying allowing a certain amount of design life. Because the price of replacing the entire bridge was more than twice the cost of redoing the superstructure, and it didn't do twice as much service time. The design life wasn't twice as much, according to the state. And that, keeping in mind that we also have 3 other bridges in town that they're all older than this one and need work as well, that might be a better use of town funds to have a more limited project on this bridge, and save considering that the reason the state said that they were recommending full replacement was to accommodate the town plan goal of having 2 sidewalks and slightly realigning the bridge. And once we discussed that with them, they said, if it's not as important for the town to have 2 sidewalks, then the minor adjustment in the path of the bridge is not insurmountable. So they said it would be perfectly acceptable for the town to only do the superstructure. So that's the state of the bridge issue as far as I know. As I said, once I explained that to the interested parties at the Historical Society, they seemed to want to consult the people that they had talked to and ask the town if we could have some time to consider that. Obviously that's up to you as a board, but I didn't, unless you have more questions for the state, I didn't think it was necessarily worth it to call another meeting with them, although I could do that.
If I could get on a legal paper to have the rest of this chart, I would
Oh, yeah.
love, just even if you could just email it to me.
Absolutely.
I think it might have been somewhere in an email, but
Okay.
if you could,
Alright.
if that, I could just look at that.
Yeah.
I know we had it at town meeting. Just got cut off.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry about that.
And so for our, like a deadline, do we have like a timeline where they're like, you need to make a
The state
decision?
has never given me a hard deadline.
Yeah, they
for when to
didn't,
do
they
it.
seem kind
Yeah.
of mushy on it in the last meeting.
Well, of course, the project itself is a moving target.
Right.
So it's, I think, when we first talked to them, they were talking about 2030. I'm
Yeah.
not sure where that timeline is now, it may be the next year after that. but
It's likely, I feel like.
So, yeah.
With-
Anyway, that's why I was thinking about putting it on the agenda for this meeting, but I hadn't done that because once I talked to the Historical Society, they kind of said, well, can you give us some time to consult these people? So-
What are they talking time? Like
Right, I don't know exactly.
next month or 6 months or? 'cause
Right, I don't,
I'm
well, I think,
thinking we need to wait 6 months.
right, I didn't think that either. I think in their mind, they'd like to wait until sometime this summer, you know, maybe after Old Home Day or something like that is what I think they were thinking, but I don't know if we have that much time to consider it. So I did ask the state directly if there's a deadline, but I have not heard back from them on that specific question, but I only asked it last week,
What's
so.
your opinion on that, Brian?
Can we talk face to face with the project manager?
Yeah, we could do that, yeah, I could, but they were here in December, but, I could call them and have them, I'm guessing that they would have another meeting with us if we wanted to, yeah, we could do that.
Cause it's a woman, right?
Yes, yeah. So, that's fine, the other things, it doesn't necessarily have to be a select board meeting, I could have her meet with, or somebody from the select board could meet, it wouldn't have to be a officially warned meeting necessarily,
Is there
Yeah.
specific questions that you're looking for, just so that we can, I know the last time we met with them, we asked questions that they didn't have answers to.
Right.
So if we can call for another meeting, if we could pre-screen them some questions so they can get answers for you?
I'm just looking at what do they plan to really do? Exactly. And that's up in the air at this point, right?
I mean, it's up to us to decide it, I think.
Right, well, there's 4 options. We do nothing.
Right.
We can replace just the deck of the bridge, so rip the pavement up and redo that. We can replace the deck and the superstructure, so take out leave the piers and redo the steel holding up the deck and the deck. Or we can tear down the whole bridge, including the abutments, and build a new bridge and they think that, that would be depending on the quality of the abutments and if they'd have to fix those, but their goal would be to have a single span bridge if they did that.
Yeah,
So
no,
those are the 4 options, and then there's kind of sub-options within those about whether does the town want to have a detour, do we want to build half the bridge, build one side and then the other, or do we want to build a temporary bridge next to it, and each of those have a different cost because.
and a town share percentage that's different.
Right.
If we do detour, we have, it looks like a lower percentage that we
Yes.
are responsible for, which I think is,
That's the cheapest option. I don't
Right,
understand how they can even consider just doing the deck though.
Right, yeah,
We had a welder under there welding
right,
yeah.
not that many years ago.
right,
Put welded steel plates on there because it was rotten out.
yeah, so,
I mean, yeah, it needs to be done, and they've rated it as the number 1. We could disagree with that all we want, but that was up to them to begin with.
right.
Is that's the bridge that's the top
Yeah,
priority.
the other thing is that doing the deck and superstructure, according to them, doesn't buy you any more service life, so you might as well do both.
Well, of course it does.
Right, yeah, so, yeah.
That superstructure is not solid.
Right, I agree, Steve. Yeah.
I agree. Did they have, like, I feel like we had asked them, if they had like an approximate, like how long does this bridge or does this project give us? And I
Okay.
feel like I don't know that they gave
Well,
us a
they-
straightforward answer. I don't know that they have a
They
straightforward
gave
answer.
a lifespan, but everything outlives its lifespan. Anyway.
Right, if we replace the deck or the deck and superstructure, they said 40 years of design life.
Right.
If we do the whole bridge, they gave us 75 years of design life. Now, part of that's because I bet at a certain point, they can't project the future in terms of, what vehicles are we gonna go over the bridge in 75 years, so. But, anyway, that was the long and short of it is if we did a superstructure and deck replacement with a detour, which is the low, well, not the, just the deck, as Steve said, we can't just do the deck. That was the lowest cost option for the town.
Yeah.
It was somewhere around $115,000 that the town would be on the hook for. If we replace the entire bridge, it's more like $400,000. And as I said, for the town share of it. And that's the lowest, and then you'd be closing the bridge for almost 6 months probably to do that. And you'd have to have a detour for a long time. So given the options, I think doing the deck and superstructure option you would have a closure of somewhere like 4 or 5 months. So it could be done in one season. And if you had a detour around, and for the town has, I can't recall, but we have somewhere over $200,000 saved in our bridge and culvert fund now. So we have the funds on hand at this time to do that project that's 5 years down the road, and we would then have money. Whereas if we were gonna replace the entire bridge, we'd have to be saving additional money over the next 5 years to cover the town share of the cost. So, given again that we have 3 other bridges that all need to be, or that are all older than this one, it would seem prudent to save that bridge and culvert money for those projects, and try to get on the list again to get a bridge project for one of the other bridges, probably the North Sheldon Bridge, as we keep talking about. So, that's the simple part. That is a simple explanation of it, Brian, but the thing that they're not, we're just at the stage where we're choosing which of those 4 projects we're gonna do. once we choose which project we're gonna do, they're gonna do a lot more design work, and then they're gonna go look at the abundance and they're gonna look at it in much more detail and come up with a more, much clearer picture of exactly what project they're going to do, and that's when we're gonna learn about what the impacts will be to the historical society building and the neighbors on the other side of the road, on the other side of the creek. And, so unfortunately, it's a situation where we can't know everything about the project until they actually do the design work, and they can't do that until the town decides which project we're gonna do.
But they would know how far the work would extend on either side of the bridge.
Once we make a decision, yeah.
Yeah.
If we tell them we're doing replacing the superstructure, then they're gonna go down there and start doing their homework, and then they're gonna be able to tell us what it's gonna involve. But that, I mean, in this project, like you said, it's, 4 years down the road. And if we decide that it isn't gonna work, then once they get that engineering stuff done, then we can just cancel the project if if it's not what we expected or whatever, but we'll lose our place in line for that funding. So that's why, we don't wanna risk losing our funding. I wanna get things started and get things done.
Because it's like on the rail trail, we wanna put in a parking lot for the rail trail. But if that could be the staging area for that bridge.
The road's gonna be the staging area for that
Yeah,
bridge,
use the road.
cause we're just gonna shut the road down.
If the road is shut down, but if it's only one lane, you're not gonna shut the road down.
Well, we're gonna shut the road down.
Yeah.
You look at the options.
Yeah, if you look at the
How much more it costs to
Give you
shut,
the chart, it's,
do one lane at a time, or to,
it takes longer too, and so I think it
Build a,
just makes
you
more
know.
sense to do the detour, even if it is going on the, Cane Road Bridge. That's not, I don't think the pathway of the detour is necessarily the issue. It's like trying to build, even a temporary bridge, I think it would just be such a
Yeah.
waste of time and money. It just doesn't, and I don't see the spacing really, the space that she explained where it would need to be to build a temporary bridge. It's just gonna be an issue for the park, for you guys. It's
kinda tight.
it's a pretty tight area. The way she explained it, I mean, I get that it can go. There was also right-of-way issues on the other side. I don't think it necessarily was on the Park and Historic Society
Well, the
side.
town owns everything.
Because we own that, yeah, that's part of it, but there was like right-of-way issues on the other side, as far as a temporary bridge is concerned, so I don't see that as a good option.
All right, we can just meet her face to face and.
Sure, I can certainly get in touch with her and see if she could meet with, the Historical Society, or if anybody from the select board wants to be there, we can.
somebody from the select board should be there.
Right, yeah. Okay, I'll follow up with her and see if we can, have a meeting, later in, hopefully in the month of May, so that we can get this over with,
Yep.
fairly soon.
Alright,
So the, just to remind, May 4th
yeah,
is the audit meeting at 6:30
Here.
Yeah, here.
yep.
And you're okay, here.
Thanks, Brian.
Right. Well, and Brian, when we finalize we'll finalize the draft audit. As soon as that's available as a final copy, I'll send it to you, okay?
Alright. Where did he get the tonnage numbers, from Pike or something? Or-
Well, I think, well, I'm sure if he'd come, I think he would have brought all the estimates he brought.
Yeah.
He went out with, Pike, I think he went, Pike, I don't know if Whitman's came out, but Pike, Hungerford, and Allstate Construction all were interested in, and I think he also talked to Whitman's as well, so. I think there were 3 or maybe 4 contractors that he talked to, and I think he received estimates from at least 3 of them, so.
Okay,
And that was his, that's the tonnage that he got from doing those.
okay.
And so, we thought it'd be that, and I actually, Hunter asked me to, discuss it with the town attorney in terms of how exactly we should be negotiating with these people, and he recommended that we come up with one bid sheet for all of them
Yeah. Yeah.
you know, have, so that we're doing apples to apples,
Right.
because we've done
Yeah.
that before, where we get a quote from one firm, and they think it's gonna take this much tonnage, and another
Yeah.
firm thinks it's gonna take this much, and it's not, it'd be better if they were all bidding on the same project.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's the idea of that is to, you know, have you guys review that, and if you think it's good, we'll put it out tomorrow, we'll send it to all the people that came and did estimations, and we'll also publish it so that there could be additional quotes, and then we would try to set it up so that the next, I think probably on the 26th of May, we would set it so you could review the bids on that date, and by then, we have applied for the town highway paving grant this year, and I don't know, it's obviously not a done deal until the state budget is approved, but by then we might have a better idea of whether we're gonna receive anything from that program or not, which is the additional, you'll see there, he's quoted 4 or 5 roads, and then down at the bottom it says add-ons, so
Yeah.
basically we're asking for a separate quote for those places, so that if we do receive those, if funds are available, we would do those as well. Since Hunter isn't here, I think the other, I think he had talked to the select board at the last meeting a little bit about the need for another truck for either the highway or the water sewer department to use to go get parts and things like that. And so I think he's looking for some guidance in terms of what amount the select board would be looking to spend on that, so that if we are monitoring an auction or something like that, we can have an idea of what, if something's possible, we can maybe take it. He wants to know how much we want to spend, so that he can know what he should be looking for if something floats by us here.
Yeah.
So I know the state does an auction once a year, a big auction that, I don't know that we get a great deal out of that auction, but they do sell a lot of trucks at that, and from time to time, vehicles come up municipal vehicles come up that are pretty low mileage and would be perfectly adapted to what we're not talking about something that's gonna be doing a whole lot of work, it's really just getting people from one place to another. And so anyway, he'd be interested in knowing what the select board would like to set for a budget for that. And I'll just a few things, they have been running the grader the last 2 weeks, pretty regularly. I think they did, last week they did most of the classic roads to be graded, Cattell Road and Duffy Hill, Swamp Road. And I think this week they've been working more on some of the shorter dirt roads like the Poor Farm Road, and the ones that get less traffic.
Who was running it last week?
I think Matt was running it.
Oh, wow.
Most, I think Hunter was trying to get Matt some more seat time and
Yep.
get him used to doing it. And in general, I think he did a pretty good job. I drove around the roads a couple days last week, and I drove one week when it wasn't done, and the next week when it had been done, it was vast improvement. I know they did put a fair amount of material down, probably put 45 loads of stone out on all those roads, but it was definitely better, and I didn't receive any of the usual calls that I get at this time of year. So there's a few improvements that can be made. There's some greater berm out there, but we'll grade it again and we'll get there. But in general, I think they've done a good job, and luckily it hasn't been too wet. So they also I want to commend Hunter that he called Vermont Gas about the situation down in front of the fire department again. So for a number of years, there's been a gas valve in front of the fire department that there's been a leak of water coming out of there. It's been acting like a spring almost. And we had called them about it last year, and they came out and looked at it and said, well, it's not our problem. They thought it was just groundwater. And so they came out, and usually in August or something it finally dries out, but it creates quite a problem, mostly in the winter. I guess it wasn't as much of a problem this year because it was so cold, but when it warms up in the winter and then the water will run into the road and then it freezes at night, you'd have a lot of ice on the side of the road, so kind of a safety problem in the winter. Anyway, he called them again and had them come out and look at it, and decided to do an exploratory dig to figure out what was going on. And but when they got down there was a 4-inch tile pipe there probably went to the old Mrs. Coy store that had and the shaft for the gas valve was built right on top of it. And Hunter thinks that probably when they installed the gas valve, they ran into the pipe and then they sealed it, they spray foamed it or whatever. But then when the fire department got put in, the pipe probably got cut off when they were digging around for the fire department. So then the hole filled with water, and the soil's all clay, so the only place to come up was through that gas pipe. So
There was a bunch of weird stuff we
Yeah.
were digging down there
right.
from that old store.
Yeah, so, anyway, they dug down for us, and then they traced it back. I think they sourced it somewhere over, it's on the back, or beyond the trailers, but still on the lawn of the fire department, over where there's a couple trees over there. Anyway, that seems to be where but it's collecting water from underground over there or something, but he said all the ground is clay, so it's probably just groundwater that's going into that pipe. But anyway, they cut the pipe off back on the side of the driveway, so now, and then they ran a pipe down so it goes into the ditch. So now the water is flowing into the ditch. So we don't have, it's not flowing out into the road anymore. And apparently he kind of talked to them about, whose fault is this mess, and I think they agreed finally to cover the cost of the excavating because they put their gas pipe in first and kind of started the whole mess. So anyway, as far as I know, we got that fixed and it didn't cost the town anything, and they did all the digging, which is good because we don't want to dig around gas lines. That's what they're supposed to do. So yeah. So anyway, we gotta give Hunter a commendation for that because it's something we've been dealing with since I got here, and it's been fixed, so temporarily. Anyway, I forgot if they came and installed the additional 2 garage doors over there, so now all the doors have been placed over there. And one other issue, they started mowing the lawns out the springs here, and they had, I think we talked about this during the budget talks, but we wanted to ask again whether, I think the last few years we've been bringing a container down to Lewins in Enosburg and filling it with our gas for the small engines. And this year Lewins instituted a key fob system to get into that area to get the gas, and it was going to cost us some money to use the fob. So it was $25 or something just to get it, and then if we lose it, we'd obviously pay more. And Hunter wasn't a big fan of trucking this gasoline around in a big tank anyway, because he thought it was kind of dangerous. So he wondered if we could just, I think the fire department just goes to the store in the Springs and buys gas there and has it in some cans, and they bought a new metal can for the highway this year. So he'd like to, instead of going down to Enosburg every once in a while and getting a big tank of it, why don't we just, because we're gonna drive by the store anyway on the way to the fire department to mow the lawn, so we might as well pull over and fill the lawnmowers while they're on the trailer and fill the gas tank and do that. But and I think we have an account with the mini mart anyway, because the fire department uses it. And if we don't, I would be fine with establishing that. So I told him today, go ahead and do that, but I wanted to check with you if that's all right with you guys. So I thought, since it's in Sheldon and you're gonna be driving by it anyway, we might as well do that. So,
Yeah.
And again, he was concerned that we were gonna drive all the way to Enosburg and realize they didn't have the fob and have to drive back and, so anyway, trying to think, he's done we have them signed up, I've signed up the whole crew and myself actually to do flagger training again this year. I think everybody's current with their certification now, except for myself, but Hunter thought it would be a good idea to get that, have everybody fresh on that, and I thought I would do it too, just so that if there's a project where they need somebody to just hold a flag, and that means that somebody else can use a shovel. I figured that that's a good use of my time, if it means that we don't have to hire somebody else to do that. So I don't think it'll happen very often, but I know that like the town clerk in Berkshire does that too, so for example. So that's coming up. The other thing is that we're gonna host a training here for NRPC is gonna come out and do some training on the municipal roads general permit. That's the program that we use for the upgrading the ditches and culverts and making sure that stormwater drains off the road, and the two of our grant programs that we use, the Grants and Aid and the Better Roads program, are tied to that work. So it's right now we're having NRPC upgrade our inventory of all of our roads, and so they're gonna, as part of that, they're gonna come do a training here that I'd like to have our highway guys go to as well, to understand how that program works. And the idea is that they would be able to go out in the field from this location and look at and evaluate some things, so that they can do some on the job training. So we'll be doing that in June. And I think I didn't get an update from Hunter on the maintenance work that they've been doing on the trucks, but I know that they're obviously busy with all the spring work they have to do between they ordered some signs. Obviously them getting the lawnmowers ready and all that stuff. So
Seth back today?
Seth came back today. Yeah, he was on vacation last week, and I think Hunter's going on vacation next week, I believe. So.
Any thoughts of hiring part-time help for the lawn mowing there?
Yeah, that's.
Any prospects out there? Or?
I haven't heard from anybody recently. Over the winter, I had a couple of people ask about that, and we weren't hiring anybody at that time, but I'm sure if we put something out, we would probably get some applicants. I think Hunter, we did talk about that briefly, that he thinks that will be a good thing to do if we do have a lot of work lined up for the regular crew to do this summer, so he thought that would be a good thing to do. However, I will point out that I'm not sure you might want to look at the budget when we're doing that, because again, this winter we did quite a lot of overtime, so we're a bit ahead of where obviously we spend more in the winter than we do in the spring, but we are, the budget's been used more than the calendar has at this point for the payroll purposes. So anyway, that's something to keep in mind when you're, but obviously we'd probably be hiring somebody to mow lawns at a much lower rate than the CDL drivers, so,
Yeah.
yeah. But yeah, Connor said that he would, if he was here, I'm sure he would advocate for doing that.
Yeah, that's one of the things he mentioned.
Have any more specifically to add on that, because we only talked about it for a little bit today. Any specific questions?
On that truck deal, is there money in the water and sewer?
So it's somewhat dependent on how the sewer project goes this year, because there is, the water and sewer fund, I believe, had somewhere between, around $150,000 in it, at the end of the year. Just off the top of my head, I'm sorry, I'm not looking at that. And we anticipate that the amount of money that's left in the ARPA fund that we're gonna spend on the sewer project will cover the projected cost of the construction that we're doing, but it's not gonna cover all of the engineering fees associated with it. So we are gonna use some of the water sewer money to pay for engineering, and to a certain extent that that depends on what they find in the ground. When they dig down, they may discover, it may go swimmingly and, be according to the contract and not cost a penny more. But if they encounter problems down there, there are contingencies in the contract that would add to the cost of the work. So I guess it depends on how much of a mess we get into down there with the sewer. But I think, I think it would be perfectly reasonable to spend, $10,000 to $15,000 on a truck. I think that would be quite manageable with what we have in the fund right now.
That's what I was kinda thinking, if we
Yeah.
could find a,
Yeah.
$30,000 truck and, highway pay portion of it, but water and sewer needs to pay a portion too, cause
Right.
that's one of the reasons he wants it.
Right, yes, so that they
Go to
can.
the,
Right, there are some other, besides paying for it outright, there are programs that we can make use of there are loan programs that the state runs where we can use the municipal bond bank to borrow money to do things like that as well. As well as, the private market for
I don't know, last 4 or 5 projects, you can't beat people's trust on a
Right,
short-term municipal loan, but
that's right.
it's,
And it's considerably less paperwork, I think.
right, yeah, I mean, it's not a hassle and it's, very reasonable.
Yeah, so I'm just saying that besides the budget, obviously we could take on debt to do that as well. Depends on,
But I don't think there's a need for, I don't think there's a need for $100,000 pickup either.
no, I think,
A municipal, rubber format, single cab truck is what they need. They don't need a, 4-door King Ranch or anything.
no, over the winter, just for fun, we found a few that we saw on auction sites with, 30,000 miles or less that were, pretty reasonable.
Yeah.
How much they were looking for them, so obviously we could get a new truck, but if we could find something like that reasonably, I think that would be a good investment too, just,
Yeah,
particularly if we can park it in the garage and wash it, so,
Right.
yeah. So, and then the other thing, just to completely answer your question, Steve, is if we do, for this year, I think that 10 or 15,000 from either fund is doable. But I also would, I'm gonna talk to Robert Clark, our engineer on the sewer project about, a rate restructure and just trying to pick his brain on how much that might cost the town if we could. I'd like to at least get that started this year.
Yeah, we've been talking about it for the last 5 years. We haven't done anything yet, so.
Right, so if we can get that ball rolling so that maybe at the beginning of, either later this year or the beginning of next year, we could introduce new rates, which there hasn't been a new rate since 2013. Then there might be, it would take a while, but the fund would be gaining revenue as opposed to this. Right now, the sewer fund, the water fund is doing all right, but the sewer fund is not. So I'd like to at least fix that problem and,
Yep.
yeah. So there may be, by the end of the year, there may be, we may be moving in a positive direction in terms of the general course of the fund, and that would help with acquiring a new piece of equipment.
Yeah.
If I could, just since I've done the highway, I'll just mention a couple other things that would be in the admin report, I guess, but just talked to Isaac Excavating this morning, the contractor for the sewer, and we're gonna have a meeting with ourselves, so Hunter and Hubert will be there as well as myself, and the mill will be there as well. We're gonna meet this Thursday at 10 o'clock, or excuse me, Friday at 10 o'clock. I can, if someone from the select board wants to come down and it's not a full-on pre-construction meeting, but it's a.
Where are you meeting?
I don't know specifically where, I assume it'll be down in the neighborhood there, but the contractor told me if there is a specific place, he'll let me know, but.
Okay.
So I can certainly let you know that, Steve, so that, if you're available, we can come stop by. Hopefully, as far as I know, the target date to start is June 15th, and if we can confirm that at this meeting, I will immediately start putting out notice to people about, people on the street and the community in general about that. I think that school would be in session that day, and then half of the next day, so it's not perfect, but it will have a minimal impact on the school traffic, I think.
I think a lot of people are planning to not go to those last 2 days.
Right, yes,
Anyway.
I kind of wonder about.
I know my kids requested it.
Especially that last day. Anyway, that, as far as I know, that's on the schedule for the 15th. Obviously, we'll find out what the mill can do, if there's any issues we need to resolve with them.
Yep.
That'll be job one, and hopefully that project will get started. And the good news is they want to do the hard part first, so we'll find out pretty fast if there's a issue, I think, and it should hopefully be a pretty short project, I think. And beyond that, I think one of the upcoming meetings, we may, I think there may be some water action to take on some of the accounts that are past due now that winter's over. We could take shut-off action if the board chooses to. I'll check with Jane, and there are delinquent payments being made. So probably at your next meeting, I'll have a better idea about what we have for delinquent accounts and if anybody would qualify for that. I think it would be better for the town to more systematically enforce that than we have in the past, as unpleasant as it is. But the last time we did it, it was against an account that had quite a lot of debt that was more than should have been allowed, I think. So I think it'd be better for the town to stay on top of that.
Absolutely.
One other thing that's come up in a couple of different contexts is I'm gonna talk to, Mr. Bouchard, our IT consultant, about, possibly creating, separate email accounts for all of our employees. Right now, we have certain accounts for people with job titles, so I have the town admin account, Jane has a town clerk account. You as the board all have your own individual accounts, but some of our other employees don't have any official town account, and from a security perspective, like if I was going to distribute information about a personnel matter to all the employees, right now I either have to give it to the foreman and they have to give it to them, or I have to send it to their private personal email. And I think it might be better for the town if all the employees and maybe even the other minor board members had a specific email that they could use, and then there might be shared accounts for some of these position-specific accounts. So for myself, I would have a personal account that I would use only for personnel issues and access to systems, but then the town admin would be the inbox that I get email into from, the general email that I get. So I'd like to discuss that with Matt. That would come with an additional cost, because setting up those accounts costs money, but we heard specifically from the water and sewer people that, from rural water, that they're recommending that towns do that for their water and sewer personnel. Like, they weren't, right now, Hunter and Hubert are kind of sharing the water at Sheldon account, and they said, you really shouldn't be doing that. It should be specific accounts for each person, and specifically when it comes to they cited a case where all the things were done in one person's account, and then they left the town and they just decided to shut off everything. So then this town had a hard time getting control of their infrastructure because of just an email account thing. So anyway, I'm gonna discuss that with Matt, and we'll see what the cost benefit of that is, but I think in the long run it would be better if the other, when we get to it in a minute, when we're talking about the building security, that was one of the proposals that we got, was that it could be an email-based access system. If we went to something a little bit more high-tech in terms of getting people access to specific buildings, it could be based on an email account and sharing camera views with people, for example. That could be email-based as well, in which case it would be good to have a specific town-issued email for each employee or person who would use the system. Again, that would come with a cost, and I would like to talk to Matt about that. The other issue that I'd like to discuss with you on the IT front is that we're moving forward with the switch to the new phone system. In doing that, I had the phone system talk to Matt about our firewall here and how they exactly would use the existing infrastructure here at the town to install their system. And they would basically use the existing ports that we have here that the phones are plugging into now, but Matt's recommending that we install a switch, so an additional piece of hardware that would sort of separate the phone system from the firewall, so that they can be isolated from each other, because otherwise it would cause a mess. So it would be a one-time installation. It would cost us about $400, I think, altogether. But he said it would be there's an alternative that we could have them do, but have the installer do. But he thinks it's probably the best and simplest solution to install this switch, and he would do that. The switch would cost us, I think, $350, something like that, and then his labor would be on top of that. So I think we'll move forward with that unless anybody has a particular objection. I think it'll be within the budget, the IT budget we've established this year. they're gonna be coming in the next couple weeks, I believe, and he'll be on site with them to do that installation. And then at the same time, I think Jane's computer is the next, computer that we need upgrading. So I'd like to have him, work on that, and then we'll solve a long-standing issue we've had, which is that the computer Jane has was given the username and password of the previous clerk, and so that's why Kit's name is still on some of the paperwork that you guys get, because it's associated with the computer, so.
I was wondering.
We would correct that, when we replace Jane's computer, so, I'm looking forward to doing that at the same time, so, hopefully within a month we will have all those IT upgrades done, and, can start talking about if we wanted to do building security things, we could, implement that.
Okay. That's gonna mess things up if we put office personnel annual review.
Well, yes, it will slightly, because at the end of the last meeting, I think you said you wanted to have an executive session in this meeting to discuss the wages. I believe, I wasn't in the executive session that you had where you met with Jane, but I believe that you agreed in principle to some wage changes for her department. And those are included in the payroll warrant now, however, they weren't formalized by a motion. So, I think it should be best practice if you would have a formal motion to approve, the wages that she discussed for her assistants.
Yeah, for Demetrius and his training situation, as well as,
Overtime.
Katen, yeah.
Katen,
Right,
yeah.
and in the last meeting, you guys did approve the agreement you had with Jane regarding breaks and overtime, so that is on the record, but the
Okay.
specifics with regard to her, assistants were not formalized, so I would proceed with that. Again, I told Jane, why don't you prepare the payroll with those rates, and if the board would approve the motion, then the rates that are in the payroll will be correct, and then, with regard to the rest of the employees, the payroll's been prepared with the rates that have been in force up until now, and we thought that if you were gonna change those rates, it would apply on the next payroll, and if you chose to, it could be retroactive if you wanted, but, so you can defer that decision until later if you want to, but I would at least vote on the assistant clerks.
Yeah.
Okay, we can do that. I was just thinking we should have everybody here for that.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's get this stuff signed and then we'll, deal with
When we do go forward with, like highway peoples and whatnot, I wanna make sure that we include Hubert,
Yes, and that's.
in all of that as well, just cause, I mean, I've actually not met him before.
Right, okay,
So,
yeah.
just because he didn't come here for the
Yeah.
meeting, I just wanna make sure
Yeah,
that
that's my fault.
he's,
Yeah,
finishing strong on a,
Right, maybe I'll just ask him if he can come to the next meeting.
yeah, I mean, if he wants to be
Yeah.
here, great, otherwise,
Yeah.
I don't know that we need him here to do that, but I wanna just make sure he's
Yeah.
included, I'm sure Hunter is on it, also want to say.
Town of Sheldon Selectboard Water Commission regular meeting minutes. Held here April 13th of 2026. In attendance from the select board was Maria Davison, Stephen Dodd, Nicholas Norris, Richard Piasny, Bruce Trombley. Others here were Hunter Kerouac, Highway Foreman, Seth Cattell from Highway, Jane Lonzo, Town Clerk and Treasurer, Matthew McRae, Town Highway, Matt Stebbins, Town Administrator, and Jerry Vasey from Northwest Access TV. 6:40, I called the meeting to order and read the agenda. Town Administrator asked the agenda be updated to include 2 payroll warrants. 6:41, the board took up annual employee reviews. Motion to enter executive session to discuss personnel was made by Nick Norris, seconded by Richard Piasny, and the motion carried. 8:55, the motion to exit executive session was made by Nick Norris, seconded by Maria Davison, and the motion carried. The board met separately with each highway employee, the town clerk, and the town administrator. No action was taken, but to end executive session. 8:56, the board took up discussion of Act 181. Several neighboring town select boards have issued letters of opposition to the act that's currently enacted. Town administrator shared his discussions with several residents who would like the select board to do likewise. The board discussed to whom the letter would be addressed. Motion to issue a letter to local legislators regarding Act 181 was made by Nick Norris, seconded by Maria, and the motion carried. 9:07, the chair read the minutes from the March 23rd meeting, and the board signed payroll warrant 2608 and 2609, and accounts payable warrant 8-26, and excess weight permits for Elevance Trucking, Camp Precast Concrete, DeRoche's Incorporated, Fred's Energy, Harrison Concrete Construction Company, Kellyview Farm Incorporated, Munson Earth Moving Corporation, National Energy, Pike Industries, Roberts Energy, Rocks Asphalt, Wind River Environmental, David Goddard, and J.L. Pennell Trucking LLC. Motion to approve the minutes as read was made by Rick Piasny, seconded by Maria, and the motion carried. 9:11, the board took up the proposed amendment for the town procurement policy. Motion to adopt the amended town procurement policy made by Maria and seconded by Nick Norris. Motion carried. 9:26, the board took up the proposed amendment for the town personnel policy. One correction was made regarding overtime compensation on Pacific holidays. Motion to adopt the amended town personnel policy was made by Nick Norris, seconded by Maria, and the motion carried. 9:35, the board took up the proposed agreement with the town clerk regarding scheduled breaks and overtime. Motion to adopt and sign the agreement with the town clerk made by Nick Norris, seconded by Maria, and the motion carried. 9:36, Matt Stebbins delivered the town administrator's report. Updates were provided on the Mill Street Sewer Project, 2026 grand list, highway planning and grants, animal control position, recreation improvements, and the 2025 audit. 9:45, motion to adjourn made by Nick Norris, seconded by Maria, and the motion carried. Next regular meeting is on Monday, April 27th at 6:30, town office. Take a motion to accept these minutes as read.
I'll make that motion.
A second on that.
Second.
All in favor? Must be you. See how you make out with your IT and phone service stuff before we get into too heavy on the building security
Sure,
stuff?
sure, that's fine, yeah.
You know, make
Yep.
sure you keep your costs.
Yeah.
Don't go
Absolutely,
way over
yeah.
on that or something.
Right.
Cause we have security here, it
Right,
just
right, yeah.
needs upgrade.
Is the lighting in the parking lot part of that envelope or umbrella, I mean, I guess?
Well, no, I thought we had discussed that and we were gonna go ahead with that as well. So-
Yeah, my library staff had been asking.
Right, yeah.
It's lighter now, when we get out. but
Right,
they
no,
just,
it was a thing where I thought the highway would be available to do that, and then
Yeah.
once spring sprung, they kind of said, well, we're busy with other things, and also they thought it would be better to have an electrician do it, so I'm working on doing that, so.
Awesome.
Yes, just to go, I did have some follow-up discussion with Matt Bouchard about the security issue. Just cause he also does that. I think the town had talked to him several years ago about installing cameras. And at that time, I don't know, the select board really had a good idea of exactly what it wanted. And so he wasn't as interested in the project because, and the other thing is that we did not have internet, and particularly high-speed internet at as many of the town buildings. And in the interim, we've had high-speed at 3 of our, or 4 of our town buildings now. So now the information infrastructure is there to support having cameras on multiple buildings. So that's kind of why, part of why I was bringing this up. And so I think he had watched the meeting that we had where Jeremy came in, kind of his proposal. Obviously, there's differences of professional opinion about different systems. And in general, what I was looking for is the board's sense on whether we wanted to go forward with getting, I think that the existing system, you're right, Steve, we have it. I think it's, I think we're overpaying for the system that we're having now, and I think that we could get a more robust system than we have, if we wanted to. So for example, these, the sensors that we have now we could get, probably should be hardwired as opposed to the way that they are now, which is relying on batteries.
Yep.
And I think that could be done for not too much more cost, and it could be much more reliable as a system. And we could probably also find I think we could find a local provider as opposed to the national firm that we're dealing with now that'll give us better service and also be less expensive, I think. So
Yeah.
I think that's a no-brainer to me. The questions for the board so I'm fine with moving ahead with that eventually, but the questions for the board to consider are really about whether, I think the board's interested in having some cameras to go with the security system, maybe not necessarily on the same system, but having some camera presence on some of these buildings would be a good idea. And then the other thing that was discussed was access control, i.e. replacing the keys that we have now with something else, either a card system or like a phone-based system or something like that. I'm not sure that that's necessarily called for in every circumstance. I think that in general that would be better I think it's better to move away from keys because keys can be duplicated. However, with our highway and our fire department, there's always the issue of, when people need to get into a building, get into a truck to respond to an emergency, if they don't have their key, their card key with them or something, it's better to have them, have a door code or something that's in their brain that they can remember. Then if whatever gets them into the truck fastest, I think is probably better for the town. Obviously, we want to balance that with security, but I guess the question I wanted to lay in front of you was how we talked about some pretty sophisticated technology for doing the cameras last time. I think that things could be a little bit simpler, or we might, and the other thing is that we can always change these systems again in the future. I think that for, what we were talking about with Jeremy was having cameras on the building is one thing, but then you need to have recorders to capture the memory from those cameras. And he was suggesting that we could probably save money by having a centrally located recorder, but that would require interfacing with our firewall here at the town office. And once I talked to Matt about that, he was not as sure about that arrangement as Jeremy was. So, anyway, I think, I was wondering if maybe we should ask for again, we can discuss this, like, we can table this if we want to, Steve, but I thought, at least in the short term, to save the town money, I would proceed with replacing the system we have now with something that would be comparable, that would, I think, save the town money. But we could also hold off on that, provided that if we did get a system with cameras, maybe we wouldn't need as many sensors as we have.
I was gonna say, do we need the system if we have cameras?
Right,
I mean,
I think some of them would be good, maybe we don't need, a sensor in every single room, but, maybe, somewhat more limited than what we got now, so maybe I'll take this back to, I'll ask both of the contractors to talk to,
I think the only times these alarms have gone off is when the board stayed in here too late.
right, yeah, right, or,
Then we couldn't figure out how to shut it off, because we never used it darn thing.
right,
The library set it off last weekend.
Yeah,
Because
okay.
they stayed open late on the weekend and it goes off at like 3 o'clock on the
yeah, in the
weekend.
afternoon, yeah,
And they stayed till 4, so
that's right.
they had to do that.
So, I think, if you wanna table this, that's fine.
Because
Yeah.
this system, as it is now, who's it contact?
Who does it contact? It contacts me now, yeah.
Oh, it
yeah,
does?
Yeah, it used to go to Kim.
It used to go to
and-
Kim, 'cause she
right.
lived just up the street.
Right,
but
yeah.
I
Yeah, it
didn't
goes to
know if
me
that ever
now.
got changed, but.
Yeah, it did, yeah, it took me a minute, but yeah, and then I think anyway, yeah, it's not the most intuitive system but I figured it out eventually, but I think it'd be nice to have a local dispatcher and be working with somebody who could come and look at the system every now and then would be good. I think what happened is that, I think Sheldon and Fairfield both signed up for this system around the same time, because somebody was driving around selling it to people, so.
Yeah.
Anyway, okay, I will go back to, both of these contractors and have something a little bit more, concrete for you guys to look at, compare this to this for the next meeting.
Okay. So we need to sign these, road and bridge certificate of compliance. Certificate of compliance for town road and bridge standards and network inventory. We, the legislative body of the municipality of Sheldon, certify that we have reviewed, understood, and comply with the town road and bridge standards, public work specifications, and standards passed and adopted by the select board on July 15th of 2019. We further certify that our adopted standards do meet or exceed the minimum requirements included in the June 5th, 2019 state-approved template. We further certify that we do have an up-to-date highway network inventory which identifies location, size, deficiencies, conditions of roads, bridges, causeways, and culverts, and highway-related retaining walls on class 1, 2, and 3 town highways, and estimated cost of repair.
So I just provided, I thought I had one, but in case you didn't, there's a second copy of the town road and bridge standards. They were adopted in 2019, and I think the major change that was made at that time was that they wanted to upgrade, any culvert that would change would be minimum 18 inches. Their record, and we have been following that, we've replaced quite a few culverts in the last, since those standards were adopted, so.
Yeah,
Otherwise, I think that was the only change from the standards, before. And in terms of the network inventory, I can't say that the inventory is in 100% up to date, but I've done a fair amount of work on that recently to document the culverts that we have changed in the last few years, and to go out and, I've gone out and photographed quite a few, certainly all of the largest culverts that we have. We have good documentation of all those and the state that we're in the last year or two. We have, rough estimates of the work, the cost of repairs that we need in a few cases, but it's certainly not like an engineer's estimate. It's more kind of what we've discussed between myself and the road foreman over the last couple of years. So I put down for those things. We've identified the things that need work. And part of the basis I've been using for that is a stormwater plan that was done in 2014. That included quite a few projects that have been done since then, and there's a grant window opening now where we could get a new one of those done, and I'm thinking about possibly applying for that, just because we've done a fair amount of them. It would identify stormwater projects both for the highway and not for the highway that need to be done, that should be done in town. And I'm hoping that we could get more of the last one. I don't remember having particularly great cost estimates in it. I'm wondering if we could ask for that in doing this grant again, because that would certainly help us with identifying the projects where we're going to need more resources. So the ones culverts that are over 4 feet, I think, are required to have an engineering, hydraulic analysis done, and also engineering on them, particularly if we put a box culvert in to replace a pipe. But the smaller culverts may not require that, although it could still be a good idea. Anyway, all that to say is that the inventory, I think, is in much better shape than it has been previously when I certified that it's exactly 100% up to date. Not exactly, but we are working on that. So I don't know if you don't want to certify, that is not required to certify the inventory, but the bridge and the fact that you reviewed the bridge and road standards is something you're supposed to certify every year. Are there any questions about that?
do I need a motion on this, or
I
we just
think-
need a signature?
I think we at least need a signature. I can't remember if we took a motion on that last year or not, Steve. You'll sign it, I think that's fine.
Okay. And then we have the annual financial plan for town highways. We, the legislative body of the municipality of Sheldon, certify that funds raised by municipal taxes are equivalent to or greater than the sum of at least $300 per mile for each mile of class 1, 2, and 3 town highway in the municipality. You got the number right in front of us. Huh?
Yeah, that's using, the rates that they provided for how much aid the state is gonna give us. And, I think I used Hunter's estimates for how much we were gonna spend on, road chloride and salt and sand and stone to do our expenses in terms of, winter and summer maintenance. specified that we're not, that doesn't include the grant funded projects that we're doing, because those are spanning more than one fiscal year. So, in terms of, spending $300 per mile, that would be only, a little bit less than $14,000, so we're spending a bit more than that.
Yeah.
So.
You all done with the payroll? Or are you still?
I just had one question. It just would be something I'm not concerned, I'm just
Yeah, that's fine.
curious. The Firematic,
Yeah, okay.
is that part of like the whole fire truck?
I believe that is hose supply.
Hose, yeah, I just didn't know, I don't recognize what it's for,
Right.
it's just a hefty commercial.
What is it, does it say, is there a memo or something there?
Yeah, it says like a SP555E3 Connect spreader package.
Oh,
And then
it's
it
a
looks like
tool,
there's a
yes.
battery and some,
Yeah,
a
so
charger.
that's a tool, they got a larger jaw life spreader, I believe,
Oh,
yeah.
okay, yeah, I just didn't know what that meant. Awesome, thank you.
Yes, yeah. So they're all battery packed now, and they have, I think the unit they used to have, so, I don't know if you guys have ever seen the jaws of life, but they have ones that hydraulically separate, and then they also have ones that'll pinch, so you can pull things together or you can press them apart.
Oh,
The unit they originally got did both of those operations, but one had certain, it could only go so far in spreading, so I think they got a grant, I believe, I don't want to misspeak, but I think they've gotten a larger clamper, but they wanted a larger spreader, so they could have more capacity to help people out, so that's what that's for.
All right, is there anything else we need to cover tonight? Oh, that you need
Oh, yes, a motion on
Motion
the,
on-
on the wages for the, assistant clerk and for, so for the new assistant clerk, set her wage rate, and also to, Jane was asking to, change the rate that we're paying Demetrius, since he's acting as a consultant more than a clerk at this time, so. I believe that she has set the wage rate for Kate at $24 an hour. Correct.
That sounds right.
I think so.
And Demetrius, in the limited time he's gonna be acting as a
Yeah.
consultant, would be $50.
Short term,
And he was here last week and that went, so far Kate's done, really great. I think she's been, Debbie Cattell came in and helped her with the accounts payable, and Demetrius helped her learn how to do the land records, and Jane's been helping her with all the, the vitals and things like that. I think, we're waiting for the state to, get her into the system for vitals. That's basically just waiting for them to create an account for her. She's working on her notary training, but otherwise I think she's, well up to speed, and obviously something, she has more to learn, and so, Demetrius will be coming to help her more with the land records, in the future. And we'll keep that as limited as it used to be. She seems to be pretty quick stuff. So far, so, I've not had much time to talk to her because she's been so busy learning all the new, systems.
Yeah, Jane seemed really happy with her feeling comfortable learning
Right.
so much new pieces.
And specifically, she and Jane are going to a training on Wednesday, and so the office will be, the town clerk's office will call zone and say this would, that'll take any exposure for a while after that.
Alright, so how do we need to word that motion?
I guess I'd be looking for a motion to, set the compensation for the assistant clerk at $24 an hour, and set the compensation for the assistant for Demetrius Bolduc as a consultant at $50 an hour.
Okay. You wanna make that motion, or you want me to?
Yeah, I make the motion for us to be able to pay both of them, as you stated.
Catching on?
A second on that?
Second.
Alright, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Alright, so moved. Any other business we need to cover tonight?
No, I just wanted to mention one thing that I went to a training last week about the new CHIP program the state has. And I just wanted to share a little bit about that. Because it is, I think it will be an option for Sheldon to consider once we're through with this Mill Street sewer improvement. There's been discussion in the past about developers possibly being interested in building some more housing in Sheldon Springs area, and the issue for quite a while now being figuring out how to extend wastewater to any new housing, and just working out between the town and the developer who's gonna build what, and ensuring that both do their part and nobody's left holding the bag, so to speak. So we've talked about a couple different ways to do that, and there are ways that are still on the table. But I just wanted to talk about the CHIP program because it sort of offers a new way to finance these things. So the idea is that there's a certain amount of, I think it's set at $200 million a year in terms of the amount of the total state education payments that can be put into this. So that means that if you do a project, this is a tax increment financing type project. So the idea is that you have bare ground there, and right now it's on the grand list at a set amount. Then someone comes along and builds housing on it, and it will have a new value that'll be higher. And then the difference between those two amounts is an increment. So some of that increment goes to the town for local tax payments, and some of it goes to the state for education tax payments. And the idea is that every year would be limited, the amount of total increment, I believe, that the state would be approving would be capped at $200 million for the whole state. So the number of projects would be limited by that amount. The idea here is that in order to build this housing, you need to build some infrastructure. Let's say in this case in Sheldon Springs, we need to extend the sewer system across the highway and branch it and build it out to the number of homes that need to be built. And in order to do that, somebody has to incur debt. Traditionally, the municipality would be getting a bond, and then it needs to be paid off. The idea is that the increment that's created by this improvement, the difference between no housing and housing being there, and the grand list value, would be set aside and only pay off the debt that was incurred for building that infrastructure. So those the new value that's generated would not go to the local, those taxes would not go to the town for municipal use, and it wouldn't go to the state for education use. It would only go to pay off the bond on the infrastructure improvement until that was totally paid off. And then the money would go to the grand list as it normally does. Okay, so what's different, this sort of project has been around for a while. It's called the TIF program. Mostly it's been larger municipalities that have made use of this project. So St. Albans City did a number of projects like this. However, what's different about this new program is that it's much more targeted at smaller projects and even private projects. So it could also be used, let's say that there's an area of Sheldon far from the village where the existing wastewater is, but there's someone who wants to develop a property. They don't have, all the housing lots don't have good soil for, individual septic systems, but they could build one septic system for a shared housing development of, 5 or 10 homes or something. If the town agreed, if the developer and the town came up with an agreement, the increment created by building those new homes could be used to finance the private infrastructure out there. It wouldn't necessarily belong to the town. The town would just be allowing the funds created by that increment to pay off that debt. And then after the debt was paid off, the town would collect the taxes as normal. So it's all a matter of, the other thing is that the bond for the infrastructure doesn't necessarily have to be borrowed by the town. It could be borrowed by the developer. And so it gives a lot of different options for exactly how to proceed. And it would take a lot of close cooperation between the town and the developer. Now, part of the project is it has to create housing. The state won't approve it unless it creates a certain amount of housing. It can create other things as well as housing. So at this training we had, some people asked about specifically like in the city, if they redeveloped a city block and it contained, some commercial space on the bottom floor, but on the top it had apartments, would that be possible? And they said yes, depending on how much housing. It all depends on the amount of housing that's created. And again, it's an agreement where a certain amount of housing has to be created at the end, and then if that doesn't happen, there's a risk. And that has to be, the default risk has to be agreed on in the agreement, whether that falls on the municipality or the developer. So it'll be interesting to see how that, as these things get going, we'll see how that, obviously it's a brand new program. I think the state's gonna learn a lot about what projects are good and maybe they can improve, maybe they can approve a lot more increment than 200 million in the future. Anyway, it's obviously something for the future, and as I said, after we finish with the sewer project, we're doing it currently, but it's just another option that has come up that may be available to the town and the developer to work together to build that infrastructure in a way that doesn't, impact the town's current finances or even be on the ratepayers necessarily to finance. However, we've discussed other ways of doing the same thing where the town could just create an ordinance giving building specs for a sewer system and just tell the developer, hey, you build it and we'll take it over at the end. And then the risk is entirely on the developer, but they also get a guaranteed system because as long as it's built to the town's specs, then the town takes it over. So there's a couple different ways we could do that. This is just another option that's available. And I thought it was intriguing. I had understood the public infrastructure idea, but I didn't realize that it could also be used for private infrastructure if that's as long as the town and the developer agree on that. So anyway, just something for the town to consider in the future. I think, Brian was there and there were a number of contractors there who I think were interested in learning on, how this project might help them do some projects. And so we'll see, I think we'll see in the next year, there's a lot of other municipalities that are probably gonna move forward with lots of ideas, and we'll see how that works out, but it's just an option for the future that we could consider. And I can certainly share more information. VLCT has a lot of training on that, or information about that. They're doing, between the state, VLCT, and various housing advocacy groups. There's a lot of information being shared right now about this project because they're trying to get people to do it. So anyway, I just thought you guys would be interested in that. That's it.
Alright, anything else? Take a motion to adjourn for the evening.
I'll make that motion, adjourn to the evening.
Second,
Second.
alright, all in favor?
Sorry.